Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to a whole new episode of Full Steam Ahead. I'm your host, Zoe. Cantu is on the other side, right there on this beautiful Thursday night, January 16th. We are about 5 days away. Hall of Fame induction. Well, not induction, but the announcement for the induction in the summertime. To see if Billy Wagner gets in. That's a former Astro. Carlos Beltran, another former Astro. See if they get into Cooperstown. I think as of right now, it's Wagner, Ichiro, CC Sabathia, and maybe Carlos Beltran at the moment. That the four that are above that 75% threshold. But we'll talk about that later on this episode. Episode 233. Astros make more moves. International free agent signings have finished on January 15th. Just yesterday, they completed all the international signings. Sorry about that. And the Astros did about 20, I want to say, agreed on contracts. So a lot of players from different countries. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Short-term deals is another interesting topic because, man, Alex Bregman still a free agent. Pete Alonso still a free agent. Anthony Santander is still a free agent. We're weeks and either under a month away from spring training or just a month away from MLB spring training, and these superstar players have yet to sign.
Yeah, it's a crazy off season right now. But before we get into all this Astros talk, Lorenzo, how have you been? How was your weekend? I know it's Thursday. Any plans coming up?
We have been doing great. Just working. Well, I can't say school no more because I already graduated school. Usually that's been like the whole time that I've been doing, but just working pretty much painting rooms. That's pretty much it for me. How about you on your end?
Good. Just trying to make it through the week. Got a 3-day weekend coming up with MLK Day, and hopefully a snow day too. So we're trying.
That's gonna be interesting. Was it 40 degrees as the high or the low on Monday?
Yeah,
and then
I think it's gonna be in the 20s on Tuesday and Wednesday. So we'll see how that goes. I saw the little weather app. There's a little snowflake on there, so
yeah.
We'll see what happens.
You're praying for that 4-day weekend, huh?
Of course.
Yeah, it'd be interesting because when we were in school, we either still went to school majority of the time or did not go to school, like less than 15% of the time with ice and freeze warnings.
I vividly remember waking up at 5 a.m, checking our phone to see if school was in session and stuff like that. So and most of the time for us it was. I feel like nowadays it's kind of changed up a little bit. I feel like we're always at school. But yeah, I mean, times have changed.
Even before that, we're talking about like going back a little bit more, middle school and elementary. You're waking up in the middle of the night around 4, not even the middle of the night, 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning to see on your local news station if your school has been canceled. I remember them days. But yeah, I mean, hopefully everybody bundles up, stay safe, get gas, water, all them essentials just in case with pipes bursting or, going down with the electricity. I think the last freeze or the last storm that hit Houston when it was that cold was maybe 2-3 years ago, maybe.
Yeah, I think it was 2021 because I think I was living in Dallas at that time when it happened.
Yeah, we lost power for a week and a half. We lost water for 2 weeks. And yeah, it's just insane. So make sure you have your pipes wrapped up. Make sure you have them plants that you want to save bundled up and secured because that freeze ain't no joke. Especially Texans down here in the South. We don't like that cold. But real quick with the objective, short-term deal. Another infielder that used to play in the AL West is still an option for the Astros. We'll talk a little bit more about him. International class of 2025. Billy Wagner, Hall of Fame update, as I already had talked about earlier. And then around the horn. Angel, before we get started, let everybody know where they can find us and follow us from social, YouTube, and all that good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad we moved on because then people can think we're a weather podcast, but we're not. Up there, you can find us on X, TikTok, Q2, that's at Full Steam Ahead. On Instagram, it's FSA Full Steam Ahead. On Bozo said, you can find us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify Podcasts. And I just want to shout out to all the listeners out there. We've been growing mightily. A lot of us, over 200 subscribers now. I, d- I think that giveaway really played a big homage to that. And shout out to the winner. I forgot his at, but we'll shout him out later throughout the podcast. So shout out as I look up his at name. Uh, but no, yeah, really great. Appreciate all the support and love, and let's get to it. Let's get into this Astros podcast.
Yeah, shout out to everybody. Drop in the comments where you're listening from. Last episode we had Astro Wolf Craig was listening from Southern Illinois. I know it gets hella cold up there in Chicago and that Midwest. But let us know where you're listening from. Mexico, Spain, California, Denver, Hawaii. Apparently, Baseball Reference, that's been one of the most friendliest team names that have been popped up over there. Well, not Hawaii, Alaska, my fault. Yeah, just put in the comments where you're listening from, and we love that engagement in the audience when we talk about these type of topics. So let's start off with them short-term deals because per Ken Rosenthal, at least two right-handed pitcher Jack Flaherty and outfielder Anthony Santander are open to considering short-term deals with high average annual values, which is AAV, if you do not know that, according to league sources briefed on their discussions. Jack Flaherty obviously winning a World Series championship with LA, still free agent. Anthony Santander coming off of one of his biggest seasons in his career, still out there. I got to ask you this because we've talked about Anthony Santander possibly being an option for the Astros in that outfield. He's welcoming now a short-term deal. It ain't look like he's going to get a 4-year or 5-year type of contract. What kind of deal you think looks like it for him? If the Astros wanted to give Santander a deal where you're looking at maybe a 2 to 3 year type of deal, what could the money look like? Could the Astros possibly explore that option now?
Yeah, I mean, for Santander, a guy like him, he's going to be open to that short-term deal only if it's high average annual value, like you said. So I'm looking at a deal maybe two year for 44, 2 year for 45 million around there. Anything over 20 million is, I think, what he'll take for a short-term deal. I don't think he'll take anything less than that. Same thing with Flaherty. I think Flaherty gets a high AAV too, maybe looking at more like 2 year 40. I think for a pitcher, I think it's kind of hard to break that 20 threshold. I mean, it's happened before, but for a hitter like Anthony Santander, you could easily even reach 23 AAV or 24 AAV, if that's what's going to be more enticing to them. But I'm saying if it's going to get done to whatever team, you're looking at least 2 year 44 million for Anthony Santander.
Yeah, I'm looking around that kind of money figure as well. 2 years, 44, you're getting 21 or 22. Yeah, AAV each year. Yeah, that's probably going to be where Santander is looking at. And my opinion, I still don't think the Astros are still going to budge at that, apparently because of where they're at in the luxury tax and the CBT. They're already over maybe just $1 million or $2 million after the arbitration hearings have been settled with 8 of their players. So I mean, it'd be a good option to see where the Astros can stand with him. Maybe they can get him because if you saw last year with Teoscar Hernandez and the Dodgers, I think it was a 1 year 21 to 23 AAV, or not even AAV, but the contract itself for him. And then obviously this past season, he got re-signed with the Dodgers. So I don't know if he could be looking for a 1 year, possibly. To me, in my opinion, it's probably going to be a 2 year type of deal. Like you said, 44 isn't a bad number, maybe 40 to 46 or even to 50 range, I would say, for him. If they wanted to add a 3rd year on that, that could be that club option. That could be that player option as well, just like all these other agencies out there. We'll talk about Scott Boras here in a minute because a notable Astros player that's now a former Astros third baseman we'll talk about here. But Santander, back to him real quick. I just don't think the Astros could get anything done. Maybe they do, but they're going to lose out on, if I'm not mistaken, a draft pick because of him denying the qualifying
offer.
offer. Yeah. So
I wonder how open those two athletes are, and even the organizations too. They some deferred money. I know the Dodgers are big on that. They're in debt for years to come, but uh, I wonder how open they would be, especially for Anthony Santander to be on a competitive team. Like, I don't think he wants to pull. I mean, no offense to Luis Arena, but like, and go sign with the Athletics, who just came out like one of the baseball's worst record, right? So I wonder how open he is to that, and it's interesting to see what competitor steps up. I know, like Cubs are trying to make some moves done, Seattle as well. The Toronto Blue Jays are always big on every free
Mhm.
agent, so it'll be interesting to see how what the contract looks like if he gets one, and how the money's kind of managed like that.
Yeah, the Mets, as of right now, are another team that's looking at him aggressively. Um, how about we go back into that 1 to 10 range, that little meter and that scale that we were talking about? 10 being the likeliest he could be an Astro, obviously one being unlikely to be an Astro. What you stick? I don't know what was your number. If it was 5 or 6, if I'm not mistaken,
For
for
Santander,
Santander, yes.
I think it was what? I think it was a
Because
four actually.
I said a 3 or 2. So
I think I said a four.
okay, if you said a
If I'm
four,
not
are
mistaken.
we changing that number now with the likeliness of him being open to a short term deal and possibly you never know he could become an Astro, which I mean, like I said, I still just don't see it.
I'll stick to the four. I mean,
A 4.
again, the reason why I'm saying that because I already got burned once for Josh Hader, and I don't want to look like a fool and say it's a zero, and then the Astros pull an ace out their sleeve and bring in somebody like that. So uh, I'd say four.
It's like fool me once, shame on you.
Yeah, and fool me
Fool me
again.
twice. Shout out to George Bush. But per Bob Nightingale, since we're talking about still with these short term deals, there are two free agents out there that are very key players to their teams, still a free agent and represented with one of the most notable agents in Major League Baseball. Quote from Bob Nightingale: while P. Alonso may be willing to accept a short term deal with the ability to opt out after the 2025 season, Bregman is not going down that path. He has no desire to accept a short term contract. End of quote. Obviously, Bregman's still into ties with the Toronto Blue Jays, the Boston Red Sox, the Detroit Tigers. Them are the top 3 teams that are still in for the hunt for him. But this is what Scott Boras told Nightingale in his USA Today article. Quote, Bregman's a championship player. Teams know it. It really a matter of his decision making and theirs about how you can close up the gap. Their substantial interests and long term deals. It's been a quiet market. We know we can talk about P. Alonso and around the horn, but focusing more on the former Astro, the Gold Glover, Alex Bregman. He had a deal with the Houston Astros set in place for him to become the highest AAV player in franchise history. Did not take the deal. He said that he wanted a 200 million type of deal. Astros gave him 6 years, 156. Teams, I don't know if teams have given him a little bit more than that or maybe in the 170 something range. But do you think Houston's deal was the best, honestly? Because as of it looks right now, the Astros offer looks like it's the best offer so far, just because they already announced the number that they gave him. So I want to ask you, you think this was the best offer that he has received so far? And do you see him probably taking less than 156 now?
Yeah, I think actually what he said last year was the uh, most he was going to get. I think that was the best deal. Best deal I'm sure he's been offered. I find it really hard for any other team to offer him over 26 AAV or even 200, over 200 million. I think right now it's although the market could be wide open, I just don't think the, these teams are willing to to finally press the button and say, all right, Bregman, we're giving what you're looking for. I think there's room to negotiation. I think there's a lot room to argue how Bregman should not be a $200 million pick because you're not going to get 2019 Alex Bregman again. There's been although he's been, tremendously healthy. You saw it this year, unfortunate events getting hit in the hand and, just things that happen along the course of the career. But it's been a steady decline for Alex Bregman, and hoping for him to go back to that form is going to be kind of tough. I think, yes, we know what type of leader Alex Bregman is, World Series champion, could make any team a competitor, but to what extent, right? Like, you're not going to get 30 home run season again. You're not going to get, I mean, you could probably get 100 RBI season, but it'll be kind of hard for him to do that. But it's just, I think he should have taken the Astros offer, because I don't think he'll get better than that.
Yeah, I think we've talked about it in past time already, last year really, about that offer, and we both agreed it was a fair offer from Houston to give Bregman 26 AAV. He'll be turning 31 before the season starts, and I just, either he does get 156, great. It's just going to depend too on the years on that AAV, or you're looking at a contract that's probably going to be under 156 if he doesn't want a short-term deal. As of right now, January 16 on a Thursday night, then he's going to still continue looking for a deal to pass that 156 mark to kind of show that he's still worth it.
I have a question. I'm sure one day Alex Bregman could probably be in the Astros Hall of Fame just for the career he's made here in Houston. However, if he were to sign, say for example, Chicago, because I know Chicago or Detroit, because I know, like, those are two clubs that have their eye on Bregman. Say he signs a 6-year, 150. Just throwing a number out there. What do you think the reception will be from Astros fans when he comes to Houston? I know, like, for most players, that have a great career and some players, they get a standing ovation and stuff like that. Do you think, fans out there in Houston, like, talk to me about how the reaction is from fans out there about this whole situation?
I think the Houston community won't boo him or anything like that. Whenever, whatever team he does sign with, when he comes back to Houston, he's going to get a standing ovation no matter what. There's a guy that was important for that core four, helping them go to the ALCS, helping them win 2 World Series, and all that type of good stuff. Obviously, runner MVP in the American League behind Mike Trout in 2019, 2018 All-Star Game MVP. That's the first Astro ever to win that award. So the reception, at least for the Astros community, I think it's still going to be good. It's still going to, give them respect, give them their respect to him because of what he had done for Houston, being that top draft pick in 2015, if I'm not mistaken. So the reception-wise, it's going to be healthy. I would say fans are still going to cheer for him no matter what. But with the contract now, talking about the business part, it's going to leave them a sour taste in their mouth because they know for a fact that if he would have stayed in Houston, he would have been an Astro for life and all that good stuff. And then the Astros wouldn't have to go get Isaac Paredes and Cam Smith and all them other guys. Kyle Tucker possibly wouldn't have to be traded. That's another thing, too, to think about. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. Just for the fact of that 1 year still being on his contract, and Isaac Paredes is now being the third baseman for the Astros. So I think Houston, the city of Houston, like I said, is just going to leave a gross taste in their mouth knowing that if he does sign less than 156 or even just really at 156, being that AAV 26 or under, it's kind of going to be like, well, we kind of told you, you should have just stayed in here kind of thing. It is what it is. It's a business part. I see it as, he already won 2 World Series. He got a Gold Glove, Silver Slugger, and, all the accolades I already had mentioned. To him, he's just setting his family up for the long term, I would say.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I was going to mention that while the perceptive Alex Bregman might be cheerful from the fans, I guess we'll find out whenever, if because it's Chicago, like
Chicago's on the mix, but I don't think they'll get him. That's just my opinion, because they do got that kid Matt Shaw over there. He's really highly respected in the farm system, according to MLB Pipeline. And my teams, I'm really gonna be going really, and they already had mentioned it: Blue Jays, Tigers, Red Sox. I think Blue Jays is really a sleeper team, just known for the fact that they miss every superstar after superstar after
Yeah.
superstar. The connection over there with Houston already with George Springer. So George and Alex could get to know each other. Or you go to Detroit or Boston. Detroit, he has familiarity with AJ Hinch. Boston, Alex Cora. They both like Bregman. I really like Bregman being in a Tigers uniform just for the fact that young core over there, they've been to the postseason. They were one win away to go into the ALCS um, against the Yankees. So, yeah, that's how I see it. If Bregman was to sign with any team, I wouldn't doubt him going to Detroit. I think Detroit would be a great fit, especially with that young core around. I just do think about this, though. Maybe it's not the managers, because if both managers want him, they would have already had signed him. But now it's kind of like a front office standpoint of the GM and owner seeing with money figures or
Yeah, it's all about
leadership.
the
And yeah, I don't know. To me, I think it's a front office thing. It's not the managers. Short to the
absolutely,
point.
absolutely. I think it's because at the end of the day, it's like for the front office, they're investments, right? You're investing in this player, and I'm sure in that contract there's gonna be guaranteed money that's gonna be given to him. So maybe he doesn't produce, or he gets hurt, or something crazy happens. You're stuck paying that guy. Like think about Anthony Rendon over there with the Angels, signed a big contract, barely seen the field, honestly, with injuries after injury. So it's just once the player hits the 30s, it's kind of hard the way his career might go. He might have like a rejuvenated year in a few years, or it can just be a steady decline too. So it's just
And,
eager to see.
and to add on to that too, think about like the Astros, the former Astros, specifically George Springer and Carlos Correa. George Springer leaves in 2020. He goes to Toronto, and like you were mentioning with Anthony Rendon battling injuries, George has been battling injuries over there with Toronto as well, including some slumps, I would say. Carlos Correa is next. He goes for the bag in San Francisco. Doesn't get the deal done because of a physical. Goes to New York with the Mets. Pending physical as well. His health played a big role of him not being, signing the big contracts over there with San Fran and New York. He does find a home in Minnesota, and Minnesota still paid him the most money compared to the Astros contract. But if you'd see that trend, Jim Crane knows the 5 year, 6 year, we're staying right there. We are not going to go over to 7. We're not going to go over to 8, because he has seen that trend, and it's worked for Houston so far throughout these 6, 7 years. It's amazing.
Yeah. However, do you think there's a guy that makes him break that? Because again, if that mentality stays in place, the Astros will not get like the top free agent ever, honestly, because you're looking at deals. Say, Kyle Tucker could be over 8. Maybe even 10. So you're looking at guys like that. So I think eventually there will be a guy like that. When? I don't know, right? But
I'll say this though, the market is starting to rise up. We had seen this in December. It was like 300 million when they showed the comparisons of contracts, the highest contract through each year. And if I'm not mistaken, it was either Mookie Betts or Shohei Ohtani. Actually, Shohei Ohtani was the guy. 700. Juan Soto, 720, 750. I don't have the number right in front of me, but I mean, the highest paid contract in MLB history and professional sports history, all that good stuff. Vladdy Guerrero already said that he's going to look for something over 300 or probably 400. Kyle Tucker's another guy I think that's going to be a 500 guy. And that was the player I said that should have been the guy that the Astros should have signed more than 6 years.
And honestly, I never say MLB bets, but I think the guy who started this all was Mike Trout, signing that 12-year, over 400,000 contract. From there, everything just been skyrocketing there. So I think he's kind of the guy that kind of led that. Maybe Albert Pujols too, because I know he signed a really big contract, 10 years too. So you're looking at guys like that.
We can talk about this on Around the Horn, but Scott Boras last year, obviously with the Blake Snell situation, Jordan Montgomery, they weren't ready for spring training, and then they got pieced up and during the season. And then right there in that season, if I'm not mistaken, Jordan Montgomery fired Scott Boras as his agent just for the fact that it took them so long to get signed by a team literally at spring training. They weren't prepared, even though they're throwing bullpens and all that good stuff.
Yeah,
Just didn't get right.
throwing bullpens and being on the field is two different things.
Yeah,
It's
facing
very
live
two.
hitters as well
Yeah.
on the field specifically though too.
Yeah.
So we can talk about that a little bit on Around the Horn. But next up on our list, an AL West, former AL West infielder, Jorge Polanco. Is he still an option for the Astros? Well, it looks like he still might be. Per Mike Rodriguez, according to my sources, the Astros are strongly interested in infielder Jorge Polanco to the point that they offered around $5 million for one season. The Yankees are also after his service. Remember that Polanco underwent to repair the meniscus in his knee. So then after that tweet, per Hector Gomez, who has said some correct things and has said some wrong things as well on reporting, but he had mentioned, quote, I heard the Astros offered Jorge Polanco 1 year, $4 million. I don't think Jorge Polanco finds any type of starting position in this infield as of right now. Isan Perez is at third, Pena's at short, Altuve at second, first is Christian Walker. There's no way in hell he's playing the infield unless somebody gets hurt. That's the only way, and he comes off the bench.
Okay.
Also, to add to that, the Astros already had mentioned they're already over the luxury tax, and if they do this type of contract for $1 million, there will be, I want to say, either 6 to 8 million over the CBT. So that's what, that 30%, because they've already gone over the CBT last year. So that'd be 30% in the consecutive season. But I wouldn't think it'd be a bad signing. It's just, to me, in my opinion, the Astros don't need infielders at this moment. They need outfield depth. That's what's going to kill them before the season starts. I'm not saying nothing bad about these guys like Jake Myers, Chas McCormick, Mauricio Dubon. No offense to none of them guys at all. But the outfield depth and the starting lineup for opening day, and you're setting up them three guys for your outfield, that's not a World Series caliber team. And we've talked about that too in like previous episodes.
Yeah, I think if the Astros were to sign Jorge Polanco, first it's a security blanket, like you said. He's not going to be starting. It's just if Isaac Perez needs a day off or gets hurt, Jose Altuve, needs a day off, he'll fit in right in. And what it also tells me is Mauricio Dubon is probably going to be playing more outfield, because, or like switching with first base, because again, a big thing that, like you were saying, outfield is a big help, and we saw Mauricio Dubon playing a little bit more outfield. But if we sign Jorge Polanco, I'll say Jorge Polanco's, although Mauricio Dubon has a Gold Glove, I'd say he's a really elite defender for sure. His bat, they can get you some hits, but I think he'll command the infield a little bit more, and that gives Mauricio Dubon to be able to play center field or right field, whatever it may be that they need. Again, having a little bit more glove, but I agree with you. Instead of, playing with the idea of Jorge Polanco, I think a bullpen piece would be a much more wiser investment for the Astros, and like you said, saving up for an outfielder too.
Yeah, I think at this point, it's January 16th. Spring training's coming up pretty soon in a month. Either they sign a veteran or they're looking at a trade that can happen, which the Astros their farm system is not the strongest, but it is mid now. It used to be not too good to mid after locking up Cam Smith as their number one prospect in their farm system now. But yeah, Jorge Polanco, I mean, not saying nothing wrong about him, nothing bad about him, but I think the Astros just need more outfield depth. If they do get Jorge Polanco, the Astros are taking a risk and hoping for the Polanco that he was in Minnesota when he was an all-star, hitting 20-plus home runs, around 80 to 90 RBIs. They're looking for that guy. And we've talked about, too, Seattle wasn't it's not a hitter-friendly ballpark at all. The numbers have shown from Randy Arozarena to Oscar Hernandez and even Jorge Polanco himself, even though he was hurt. So if they do sign him, maybe for that much of a price, like you said, maybe Mauricio Dubon plays a little bit more outfield. Another guy that comes into my mind too is Zach DeZenzo. Jordan Alvarez is probably going to play minimal of left field as well, just because of last season getting hurt. So we'll have to see. I'm not closing the door yet on that, but in my opinion, I think the Astros have to use that money, like we both said, for some outfield depth.
Then we have a comment. Ivan Hernandez asks, basically, what about Pedro Leon for the outfield? And I do have an opinion on this. I think if the Astros had confidence in Pedro Leon, last year was the year for it. He was raking in AAA, but when he came up, you saw him get very limited at bats. I would say this: if he can produce like he was doing in spring training, I think I would say they extend his chances, but they're not going into the season saying Pedro Leon's going to be the savior of this outfield. Pedro Leon is going to they're going to weigh their options first. They're going to try to get a big time free agent, and if they can't, then I can see them rolling the dice with Pedro Leon. But I just don't know how much trust they have in him. I mean, great player. It's been crushing the ball in AAA, but like I said, I think if they had confidence in him, if they thought he was the future for the outfield, they would have brought him in last year. But the fact that they brought Joey Lupafita before him kind of speaks of what they think of this guy. I mean, I would say.
Yeah, I think nothing against Pedro Leon too, but like you were mentioning, he was raking in AAA. This is a guy that I believe you could have used as a trade piece at the deadline last year because he was doing so well in AAA. He did get his chance. The kid has great speed, athleticism as well, defensively, offensively. But like you mentioned, I think they're going to look at more into the veterans than a guy like Pedro Leon, because if you think about it too, they could go to Jacob Melton, who was I want to say now is their number 2 prospect in their system. And like he mentioned just right now too, Winker is a Met. Santander is not likely to sign with the Astros. Do you guys can think in other name, maybe Profar? Winker would have been a good one. And like we had mentioned too, Jason Hayward and a Ben Gamble reunion could be in the possibility for the Astros. You don't think so? Hold up.
I don't like it.
You don't like it? All right. Please share your comments, because I thought Ben Gamble did a really decent job when he was with the Astros getting claimed off of waivers.
How much different, realistically, like how much of a difference is Ben Gamble, Jason Hayward to Jake Myers and Chas McCormick? I think you still have.
If we're talking about last season, think about what Jake Myers is like. What, August or September during them times? It was like a buck something.
Yeah, but you also
had Ben Gamble that was having a bunch of RBIs.
Yeah, but against the Cardinals, Jake Myers was batting cleanup.
We're gonna look about this, but go. What's your point?
I would say it's not gonna make a difference bringing a guy like Ben Gamble or Jason Hayward. It's the same issue with a different name. Like,
okay, I'm sorry, I'm interrupting you on this.
Go ahead.
Think about too the leadership as well, the veteran presence that they've been. When you're going to spring training, you're teaching these young fellas that can possibly come in the mid part of the season and make a difference on this club.
Maybe you can make that argument with Jason Hayward, but not Ben Gamble. Who's going to come in and listen?
Well, that's why I said either Jason Hayward or Ben Gamble. Doesn't
but not Ben Gamble.
Both is going to come.
No, but I mean, I'm just saying, I don't like the move. I think if it's going to be, if you're going to bring in somebody, bring in someone that's going to make an immediate impact. I agree with what Ivan said. Maybe Profar, but I'm
But you're not going to with Profar, coming off a Silver Slugger season.
You're not. But I'm saying like you're not going to solve the issue by bringing in a veteran who's not going to get you who's not going to play more than 150 games to Ben Gamble, who is a right-hander specialist, can't play against the left-handed pitchers. Like, you want to bring a guy that's going to be the 5-tool player. So maybe giving Leon a chance, right? Or maybe doing, doing something. But I don't think bringing in Gamble Hayward's going to make much of a difference. I could be wrong. Again, I could be wrong, but that's just my opinion.
Matt's got issues. It's on the chat. Leon needs to get a long, solid chance, especially for a team who wallowed out Singleton most of a year at what? 47 years old.
I mean, I agree. Like, they were giving Luperfuda a chance, but then again, you can make the same stance for Jacob Milton. Give Jacob Milton, like, a long chance. But I mean, I agree. Pedro Leon's a solid player who was crushing in AAA. Could be the year he finally makes it in the major leagues.
Ben Gamel in August, 333 batting average. Jake Myers, August, 211 batting average with 32 strikeouts. Ben Gamel with the strikeout rate on August 12. Moving to September, you got to remember too, he did get hurt banging into that wall, so he didn't play the full September. Ben Gamel, 120 with 6 strikeouts. Jake Myers in September, 155, 12 strikeouts.
Okay, but look how much Jake Myers was batting in June and July too. Like, the baseball season is not a month.
But that's what I'm saying. Ben Gamel was not with the Astros though. Okay, that's what I'm trying to tell you.
But I'm saying the baseball season, like, you're comparing months. The baseball season is not a month. It's a whole long marathon.
Okay, but at the same time too, a new type of environment can spark a player's ability to start hitting. Come on, you gotta be thinking of these things.
I don't know. See,
but I mean but like
I
think Hayward is a bit. Yeah, that's what I'm not saying you're wrong. That's why I told you Jason Hayward or Ben Gamel. That's what I said. I did not say Ben Gamel. Scratch off Jason Hayward.
Finish reading.
Oh, you okay? I think Hayward is a better option just for the veteran thing. But like Angel said it is the same problem with a different name. I mean, there's just not a lot of guys out there right now in the outfield. That's the difficult part for the Astros. Another guy that we talked about too could be Randall Grichuk. Great power numbers as well. I think he fit at Minute Maid Park really well, pull heavy as well over there at Chase Field.
Let me see. I'm looking at the outfielder free agents right now. You know what? We should keep it fair because the comments are on fire.
Well, I didn't think we're gonna make an argument when we're talking about Jorge Polanco and going to the outfielders. Well, it kind of does make a difference. We're just talking about Jorge Polanco, like Angel had mentioned a long time ago, him being a Ford Fusion compared to a Ferrari. But a change of scenery didn't help Trey Cabbage much. Touche, correct, it didn't, but he was in AAA the whole time. I want to say now he's playing in Japan overseas.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's in the KBO, but
honestly, realistically, top priority for the Astros. Like, I don't, again, 4%. Like, for me, 4 out of 10, they're bringing Santander, not likely. So I would focus on the guy you've been on this whole year, and that's Alex Verdugo. I think that's going to be the guy that's should be at the top of your game to bring in somebody if you're going to. Maybe even Eddie Rosario, 33 years old. I think he's hurt, but could help out too.
That might as well just sign Ben Gamel if that's the case. No, but Alex Verdugo, back to him. More than likely, he's going to be looking at barely at 9, or he's going to be in the double digits. 9 to, if I had to guess, I'd say 9 to 12 million being the max.
Doable. It's doable.
Which is doable, but it just depends too on the Astros if they want to sign that. They're already over the CBT. It's just how much are they willing to go over?
They're willing to give Jorge Polanco $5 million. So why not be able to give Verdugo 9 or 10, like you were saying? But I think that's too low.
It depends on them.
I think that's too low, though. I think for Verdugo, you're looking more at 12 to 15 range.
After having one of the poor seasons of his career at
still young, though. He's still young.
I know he's still young, but it's a prove-it deal for him at the same time. He's not going to look for 2 years or 3 years.
Tarasco Hernandez prove-it deal was 21 million. It was like over 20. So,
but this is that's an all-star and Silver Slugger winner with Toronto at that time. So Alex Verdugo was a former prospect, and he has not yet to go back into that same form that he was with the Dodgers.
Awesome.
But at the end of the day, we'll say this. Jorge Polanco, I don't see them signing him. If they do, they do. You're just, the Astros are probably looking at the risk of trying to get him to be that 2021 to 2022, whatever year he had did really well.
We have one more comment. You can
You can
take
take the cabbage out the patch.
So what's next?
Love it.
I'm curious to see. But
love it.
But
what?
The title. Sorry, I was reading there's another comment coming in. I got distracted, and I was hoping it was a response to that. So I was just waiting.
I can see how Polanco make any sense for this team. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't because they do need some outfield depth as of right now. The infield to me is already kind of solid. You already traded Greg Kessinger away. You could use Mauricio Dubon in the infield. Angel had made a case for him to be an outfielder more than anything. But then too, you got a young kid in Zach DeZenzo who's been killing it in the Puerto Rican Winter League. If you've not seen his numbers, he's hitting really well. If I'm not mistaken, his team, GM Alex Cintron, Astros hitting coach, had won the Puerto Rican Winter League.
Nice. Okay.
So Polanco could maybe play outfield.
Not with that meniscus repair.
Nothing against him, but yeah, I don't see it. I don't see him transit. I don't even think he's played outfield. I can double check when you start the new objective, but I don't think he has.
Yeah, the title of this episode is Astros Make Moves because they signed over 20 players. I'm sorry, not over 20 players as international free agents. They went all over the Latin American countries, and they got 8 players from Venezuela, 6 from La República Dominicana, 4 from Mexico, 1 for Colombia, and 1 from Cuba. But the biggest star of them all, although they did get some great youngsters, is going to be outfielder Kevin Alvarez. He is the top player in the class, and according to Francis Romero, his baseball report from many scouts, the most complete hitter in the entire class. He's drawn comparisons to Paul O'Neill and Kyle Tucker. I mean, again, the guys and the kid's barely 17, but when you're drawing comparisons, when you're ever compared to a guy like Kyle Tucker and Paul O'Neill, that speaks highly of what they expect from this kid, the expectation, just the build, the power, the bat speed, and everything like that. Astros International Scouting Director Brian Rogers on Kevin Alvarez, this is what he said. Alvarez is a loose and flexible left-handed hitting outfielder with above-average tools across the board. He combines standout hit ability with power at the plate, and his above-average arm and natural instincts make him a strong defender. His feel for the game, confidence, and outstanding baseball makeup make him an exciting addition to our organization, close quote. Also, Alvarez is ranked number 7 by MLB Pipeline among international players. When a scout who's been on some really good, has a resume for bringing in top prospects. Sorry, I lost track because I was this scout Charlie Gonzalez, who's also one that kind of urged the Astros to trade for Jordan Alvarez too. So when you have a guy like that speak highly of a prospect, you pay attention, right? And an experienced guy. So the fact that they're able to get him, and I think the fact that the Astros are able to get top Cuban players comes from still to this day, even though he's on the Astros uniform, still has an impact. Is Yuli Gurriel being able to have that connection with Yuli Gurriel, have a Jordan Alvarez too, who's Cuban? It makes an enticing place for more star Cubans to come here, and just to show, I know I've been talking about how great Kevin Alvarez is, but Zoe got some video to show y'all too.
Yeah, and this is from Francis Romero. I mean, look, the kid's swing is just loose and quiet. Like his stance is not too much wiggle kind of thing like these kids are doing now these days. But look at that. Got the power, has the contact, and he does have like a Kyle Tucker build if you really think about it as well.
He's tall.
He's very tall. I'm not mistaken if he's like 6'3" or 6'4", 6'5". But yeah, I mean, hitting BP right now. This is, like I said, this is a video from Francis Romero. You can find it on Twitter. We're giving him the credit out there. Look, there's a little side view of him as well. But this is a guy that's number 7 according to MLB Pipeline in their international free agent class. You also got another side view. This is from Chris Kling, MILB enthusiast, founder of the Dynasty Dugout, looking at other players, you know, prospects, as I would say. If you look at the side view of his swing, does that remind you of somebody that's already in the majors?
I would say kind of like the fact that it's smooth, compact, a little leg kick. I would say maybe like Jordan Alvarez, honestly.
That's what I was going with. We already have one Jordan Alvarez. Think about it now. If you add another Alvarez into the mix with Kevin, I mean, the Astros do need some outfield depth right now. This guy, hey,
He's
this kid
not
could
ready.
come already. This
Stop it.
kid could come already. But he's not ready yet. But the future is bright getting a guy like that. I don't think the Astros have signed an international prospect that high in a good while. I can't even
Yeah,
think of one on the top of my head.
yeah, a lot of excitement. I, I mean, just by the video shot, like I said, smooth, compact swing need to doesn't need to swing hard to generate that much power. And that's another thing. Like you see guys like it remind me of Josh Donaldson, just like yanking the bat, trying to get his full power. But this guy's just a smooth, natural lefty swing. Plays outfield. Lefty's a plus two, so really good there. You have
Yeah, and
anything
it's
else to
then
say?
also too, yeah, the maturity and the baseball IQ. They already had raved about him. I think you had mentioned about Brian Rogers, correct? If I'm not mistaken, because you said about Charlie Gonzalez,
Mhm.
international scouting director Brian Rogers. You already had talked about him.
Yeah,
Yeah, so yeah, the IQ's there. He looks like a kid that could develop into a quick superstar in the making anytime soon. Think about it, these international free agent signings are very important. And this is really, I would say, Houston's bread and butter that's been
yeah.
helping them out. Stars like Christian Javier, Framber Valdez, Jose Urquidy, Luis Garcia. Obviously, they, like Angel had mentioned, Charlie Gonzalez was a factor on Jeff Luno getting that trade done with the Dodgers to get Jordan Alvarez into Houston. So the Astros have been doing really well developing these type of players, and obviously being them in their academies in either Venezuela, Mexico, whatever country they come from. And the Astros, like I said, they just do a very good job in developing these guys into honestly almost superstars.
It might be ready sooner rather than later. Like I know, like the traditional route for prospects are single A, double A, triple A, but you know, I think maybe double A could be when he makes his deal. Like Luis Garcia went straight to from double A to the major leagues and pitched well. So it's just a matter of how effective he is on the offensive side. How he adjusts to playing in lower ball and everything like that. But you know, much excitement for the Astros organization.
Yeah, just think about a kid named Ethan Salas. That was the number one signing. I want to say either in 21 or 22. Kid's already in AAA, and he's like barely in his 20s.
Is he in
So
his 20s already?
I want to say so. Either 19 or 20,
I
one
think
of
he's
those.
19 still.
So sky's the limit. Put your head in the game, whatever you can do. You never know what could happen.
Yeah. Could be more excitement for the Astros organization, Astros fans, especially the old school Astros fans, because Billy Wagner, Hall of Fame update. As of today, Billy Wagner is at 84.7% with 138 total public plus anonymous votes. He's 8 game votes from returning voters. And again, he missed the Hall by 5 points last year, but he's been able to pick up some of those votes that he missed out. I think he's already had 3 new voters vote for him that didn't vote for him last year. It could be a little bit more, but he's on the
Well,
right track.
it says 8, honestly, right there.
Oh, did
Already
it? Oh, my
8
bad.
gain votes from returning voters.
My bad. There you go. My bad. I'm
But hey, what do you
I'm,
think?
I
Do you think
misunderstood.
do you think he gets in?
I
And
think so.
Then Ivan put on the chat. Is this the final year on the ballot?
Yeah,
Yes, it is.
it's his tenth and final year on the ballot. I think so, just because he's at 84 right now. I think around this time last year he was barely pushing 80%.
Mhm.
I he was flirting with 80, 78, 79, but now that he's I think past that, pretty good at 84, about an 80, I think this is the year he gets him.
Yeah, he's kind of in the range of Todd Helton. If you remember I forgot what year he got on. It wasn't his first year. It had to be another year. but he was at 84, 85, and he was almost close to not making the Hall. I think he made it by 75 or 76%, if I'm not mistaken. So don't let them numbers fool you. But I do think he'll make it. I think he makes it 77%, 78%. I would say he makes it.
Yeah, and then Arskina had a great interview with Billy Wagner, so go check that out. And we also had one last year too. If you want to go, like remember what that one was about too. So really great stuff, really good connection with Billy Wagner. It was fun to talk to him. Go check those out. And for the Shredder, I think the Shredder showing the Astros some love this time around. There's been some rankings coming in for the top position players. I know we're talking about this off, but we had center field already. They released third base. Let's not go. Second base today, and pitching a few days ago. So far, the Astros have had 3 players in the top 10 ranking. Isaac Paredes ranks 9th for best third baseman. Jose Altuve ranks 2nd, only behind Cantu Marte for best second baseman. And then Framber Valdez was voted on as the 10th best pitcher. What are your thoughts about that? Are they kind of accurate to what you think? Is someone too low, too high? What's your thought on that?
I think everybody's respected at their positions at that ranking. Framber Valdez 10th. He didn't have the best start of last year, but then that second half he kind of started getting it together. Jose Altuve, I mean, Hall of Famer, but Ketel Marte, the season that he had last year too was really phenomenal. Yeah. So I would say, yeah, I think that's pretty accurate. Ketel Marte over Jose Altuve. Do not give me the Semien and Altuve comparison bullshit. Nothing against Marcus Semien because he's a hell of a freaking defender and player. Iron Horse himself. But I still think Jose Altuve is just better than Semien by what? Maybe if we had to say on a scale, I would say like by 5%. Let's not even do the scale. We'll do like 5% of the time. So he's just a little bit ahead of Semien. And then Isaac Paredes, I mean, we don't know if he'll be 9th next year because honestly, these Crawford boxes I think are going to help him out at Dyken Park. I just don't see any way possible he doesn't hit 30 home runs. He has to. In my opinion, he's going to hit 30 plus home runs this season. Okay. Because 82 at home and then 82 away. So,
how many RBIs do you think? You said 30 RBIs. You say over 100 RBIs?
I think either 95 to 100. I would say. It just depends too where they place him in the lineup. Because Dana Brown already had mentioned both him and Walker are going to be 2 between the second hole and in the 5 spot.
You see, all these projected lineups have Isaac Paredes at number 2, but I just don't see that. I don't see him as the number 2. I think that's maybe could be Jeremy Pena. I'm looking at Isaac Paredes maybe from 3 to 5, honestly.
So if you had to project the 1 through 5. How would you do it as of right now?
It's kind of tough, but this is the way I would have it. Jose Altuve, Jeremy Pena, Jordan Alvarez, Isaac Paredes, Christian Walker.
That's 1 through 5. That's right there.
Yanier Diaz. That's
6.
6. Mm-hmm. We got, what, 3 more?
No, well, I just said 1 through 5.
Oh, okay.
Give me the whole 1 through 9.
Okay.
1 through 5. 1 through 5.
Yeah.
But and I do. Go ahead.
No, and I was going to say, having a great, I would say maybe 2 through 6, because we include Yanier Diaz in there. You can honestly flip those around. Like give it to the hotter hand. Like if Yanier Diaz is producing tremendously, moving to the cleanup hole, moving to by his 5th, right? You can kind of mix and match the way you want. You can even put Jordan Alvarez too, Ho, and there were some times where he batted 2nd too. So you can kind of flip with that. And I mean, that's a good problem to have too.
Yeah, because if you remember too, I don't know if this was last season or 2 seasons ago, Kyle Tucker was going at the 2 spot as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a good thing to happen. But obviously Kyle Tucker's not with the Astros any longer. But if I had to guess the 1 through 5 projected Astros lineup, I do like Isaac Perez being in that 2 spot. I don't mind it at all. Just in case if Jose Altuve, let's say he singles and if he still has the wheels, he can still base. He's in scoring position. Isaac Paredes could either hit a double or a home run or a single. I'm not saying that he's going to do that all the time, but that can happen. But I'll go Jose Altuve, Isaac Paredes, um, Jordan Alvarez. I just like Yiner Diaz in the cleanup hole. He hit really well last season when Kyle Tucker wasn't there in that spot, or Alex Bregman was in that spot. So Yiner at 4, and I'll go Christian Walker at 5. I do have an alternate one, I would say. Jose Altuve, Jordan Alvarez. You made a great point with him being in that 2 spot. And Alvarez did hit in that 2 spot later on in the season, going into the postseason. So Altuve, Alvarez, Paredes, Yiner, and Christian Walker.
Yeah, great problem to have, because honestly, any one of those lines, 1 through 6 that we said could be penciled in at any time, anywhere there. And then we have another comment, by the way, by as our teammates right now in the Mexican Winter League with Naranjeros at Morcillo. They are playing semifinals against Shout out to Jalisco if you guys want to watch. Yeah, I've been keeping tabs on it. Mm-hmm. I haven't been able to watch it. I've been trying to find like a little stream there, but I haven't, looked for it. I know MLB TV, like if you have the app, they're showing the Dominican Winter League there, but I didn't show some love to Mexican.
I know. Where's the Mexican love, man?
Yeah.
Hey, we've been really reporting on these guys since the Winter League started, talking about Isak and then Cesar Salazar as well. So
I do have another update. I was going to post a tweet about it today, but I just got busy. Rafael Montero, playing for Los Leones de Escogido in the Dominican Republic, has had he had 5 outings in the regular season and 4 outings in the playoffs, has only allowed 2 runs, and that was in his first outing in a regular season. Since then, he's been lights out and recorded a save yesterday, too. So that's a guy that's going to be competing for the bullpen. I think he'll get the bullpen job just because he's making a lot of money. But as you saw last year, the Astros won't be afraid to send him to the AAA if he's not producing. But I think that's a guy that's going to make the bullpen, and if he can pitch great like he's been doing it in the winter leagues, that's a plus for the Astros.
I think that's what the Astros really want, because that saves them money to go after a bullpen piece, like you had mentioned earlier. You can use that money to go get a bullpen piece. Well, if Rafael Montero can be like 2022 Rafael Montero, where he was lights out, then there's no need to spend money on a bullpen guy. But it just depends. If he comes like that from the Dominican Winter League to spring training, entering the 25 season.
Absolutely.
But yes, we have been the home for the non-hitters, I would say.
And
30 plus would be huge. I'm already his fan. I feel like a lot of Astros fans are a big fan of Isaac Paredes, and he hasn't even put on the Astros uniform on yet. He hasn't even got onto the field. If we had to take a guess, what would be his walk-up song, you would say? You thinking more of a banda? Do you think reggaeton? What do you think?
No, it has to be like, it's going to be something like regional for sure. So I would say maybe like a banda or like a nice like norteño band, but I'm leaning more to the banda.
Or even a corrido. You never can go wrong with those, like Jose Urquidy.
Yeah, it could be there. And then this is going back to Billy Wagner. As Workflex said, it'll be a travesty if he doesn't make it.
Yeah, I think it was a sour taste in his mouth when he did not make it within 5 votes.
Yeah. But we're almost hitting the hour mark, so moving on to Around the Horn. Big news from the baseball world, baseball community, whatever you like to call it. But rest in paradise to Bob Uecker, Milwaukee Brewers play-by-play announcer, and Baseball Hall of Famer Bob Uecker passed away today at the age of 90. This is a guy who, like Vince Scully, is one of the hallmarks for baseball broadcasting. This is a guy that was in a movie too with the Major League, with what the doing with the Indians out there too. So this is a guy that's been respected in the game for so long, well known. I'm sure a really great guy to was a very great guy to learn some baseball history, some pick his brain up a little bit for sure.
Yeah, I was looking at all them tribute videos too. Very popular man, I would say. Compared to his baseball resume, it wasn't the best, but broadcaster was a hell of a broadcaster. Won the Ford Frick Award as well. I think that's just not a huge loss in Milwaukee, not a huge loss in the baseball world, huge loss in the state of Wisconsin, I would say.
Absolutely. And Martin Maldonado still in the game. Signs with the Padres to a minor league deal. I'm not sure if it's an invite to spring training, but for a veteran guy like that, excuse me, I'm sure it is. But look to see. But I think that's a great addition. I think Martin Maldonado has been a wizard with being able to kind of pick, get the best out of pitchers. Has a great game plan every single time he steps on the field. So I think it'll be great for him to work with those pitchers. And honestly, if the Padres could get what's his name, Rosie Sasaki, something like that, they can sign him.
Oh yeah, Rosie Sasaki.
That'd be a big plus too. And then like Lorenzo was saying, the Hall of Fame announcement is Tuesday, January 21st. So stay tuned to that. Billy Wagner might be able to get in.
Yep, and we will do a live episode on the announcement. I want to say it's at 7 p.m. Either at 6 or 7 p.m. How the Eastern times and the Central times. I don't have the time on me, but we will do a live episode following the results of the Hall of Fame ballot. More than likely, if I had to see the class of 2025, I would say it's Billy Wagner, Ichiro, CC Sabathia. And I think them are the three guys that get in.
You don't think Carlos Beltran steps in?
I think he just falls off the ballot. Just not falls off the ballot, but just doesn't get inducted this year. I think next year is more likely than this year.
Yeah. Okay. I can.
But like Angel said, an hour and a minute. It's probably going to be 2 minutes after I stop talking in 5 seconds. But if you haven't, now an hour and 2 minutes. But on social, hit us up on Twitter, Instagram, FSA Full Steam Ahead. We're still on TikTok because TikTok might be coming to an end on Sunday, apparently, to the local government. Which now, okay, Angel thinks it doesn't happen. We never know. But if you're listening on Twitter, make sure you go on to YouTube, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button on this video. Like Angel had mentioned in the beginning of the show, we already gone over 214 subscribers as of right now. Our goal is to get to 500 before this season ends, which I have a great hope that it will happen. But of course, we won't know until the audience yourselves would hit that subscribe button. So we really appreciate it because we will give you them in-depth analysis, go with player interviews, coaching interviews. We'd be on the field doing the content, all that type of good stuff. So make sure to hit that subscribe button. And of course, listen to us on all your podcast platforms from Spotify to Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. Leave a rate, leave a review, 5 stars, 1 star, 4 stars, whatever you want to give us. We really appreciate the comments, and then we can know if we're getting better, if we need to step up on something. So we appreciate the engagement. Today was a really great day for engagement from the audience. We appreciate everybody sticking on and talking to us about the Astros. Andrew, you got anything else before we sign off?
Just to echo what you were saying, like it was really great being able to interact with, what you are thinking, suggestions, things like that. It really spurred up some great conversation with the Pedro Leon situation too. So we love that as well. So just thank you for all the listeners. Thank you for always being for having a great crowd too. Just spread the word, retweet, like what you got to do, but just to keep spreading that word.
Yeah. So with the Jason Hayward and Ben Gamble debate, will continue on throughout this getting towards spring training.
There is no debate.
There wasn't even trying to be a debate, but you made it into a debate. But it is what it is. Ivan, keep up with the great work, guys. See you the next live episode. Tuesday will be that live episode. Angel, did you get the guy who won?
I forgot to look it up.
I knew you didn't. Come on, man. I got you right here. Congrats to Hugh Salvi. Houdat Salvi. Hobby the First is his at name. Shout out to him on the giveaway, winning the Astro sweater, which is a great time to win that because it is get cold as hell, as well as the Jeremy Pena stretch bobblehead.
I was gonna give it to myself. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, you see, he was already gonna take the giveaway from everybody, but no. We like to do these giveaways, especially when the season is getting closer and closer. We're gonna do more giveaways throughout the season as well. So if you're new to us, welcome. Like I mentioned before, social, YouTube, podcast platforms. Until then, we'll follow y'all on Tuesday January 21 after the announcement of the Hall of Fame. So make sure you mark your calendars. And if you haven't hit that subscribe button, then you can get that notification. Make sure you do. Till then, y'all stay safe. Have a blessed weekend. Let's see if the Texans win against the Chiefs. Rockets are playing the Kings right now. See ya.
Go Texans.